Welcome, everyone. So happy to be here with you for another masterclass. I'm Maddy Martin. I'm the head of growth and education at Smith.ai. Now, we put on these masterclasses because we have a lot of amazing experts in our network, in our community, among our client base, and broader, from people we've met at conferences, through podcasts like Melissa and I connected. And it is hopefully an incredible resource for you so that we can extend our education, our service to help you grow your business through our networks. So I'm really excited to present the topic today, which is the Monday Map, how to plan your week. And it is being presented by the incredible, incredibly multi-talented Melissa Shanahan from Velocity Work. She specializes in working with attorneys, but if you're not an attorney, don't go anywhere because you're about to learn a lot, and everything she's going to share has relevance to service-based businesses, small businesses. If you are running or thinking about creating or starting your own business, all of these principles will apply. So don't go anywhere. In fact, get comfy, invite your friends, and without further ado, Melissa, I would love it if you could just briefly introduce yourself and your business as well as your podcast so that we all know how to find you before the end of the program today.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I'm so beyond excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to do this. My name is Melissa Shanahan. I am the founder of Velocity Work, which is a firm that focuses on growth and accountability for law firm owners. And I'll introduce myself, I guess, a little more formally during the presentation, but
Yes.
I think if there's anything that I want you guys to know, I'm really glad you said, if you're not a law firm owner, don't leave, because what I'm going to share today, I work with law firm owners on, but it applies to me, and I don't own a law firm, and it applies to so many business owners that I think there's a real value to being able to take control of your time, to take the reins of your time. And so what I walk through today is going to show you a process that you can abide by that will give you just that. Now, it's not all rainbows and daisies, so we'll get into some of that. But it is a key to use to get control of your time. So I'm really excited. Do you want me to just go ahead and start sharing?
Let's get into it.
Okay. And I'm from Denver, everybody. I think there's some people putting a few things in there. So I'm coming to you from Denver. And
yeah, Buffalo here. So you've got your cold weather contingent presenting to you today.
That's great. Okay. And if there's anyone on from Texas, I feel like we should give you a special round of applause. Okay. I'm going to share here. Okay. I'm glad. I have a new screen now, which I'm very excited about. So Maddy, I'll let you know if, make sure that this shares okay. Should be coming through.
It's just pending.
Okay.
Should be loading. I don't see a screen yet, but maybe you have to select the presentation.
It's like my little spinner. Here we go. It should be coming through right about now.
Cool.
Let me know when you see something here.
See it. Awesome.
Okay, cool. Great. Well, let's hop right in. So plan your week like a pro. And I'm going to teach you a process called Monday Map, Friday Wrap that will help you do just that. What you can expect today from what you'll learn is the power of planning. And I don't mean, I think all of us think we're pretty good at planning, but many of us don't take planning seriously. And I'm going to talk to you today and kind of show you why that's a good thing to adopt. So power of planning and how it impacts your life. 3 truths that are going to speed up your success in a big way. And we'll talk about personal processes, which that's what Monday Map is. But I'm going to give you a weekly process today that will give you back control of your calendar and of your life. I'm Melissa Shanahan. I'm the founder of Velocity Work. I'm also the creator of Mastery Group, which is something I'm really proud of, where we bring not only Monday Map and that process of really getting control of your time, but also planning in the sense of quarterly planning. So we focus heavily on that as a group, and I facilitate quarterly planning retreats and workshops for this group. So yeah, I've been coaching for over 13 years. I've been working with entrepreneurs many of those years. And there was a time where I worked at a consulting firm and did full time, was on the road and in clients' offices, like 13 to 15 offices a month. So I've been boots on the ground with the material that I'm sharing with you today, and and other things that I teach and I go into for a long time. And so I hope that you'll find some real value today. Okay, so before and after, and this doesn't just have to be a law firm owner. And I know this picture looks cheesy, but bear with me for a moment. When, most of us as business owners are spread thin. We have more to handle than, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Melissa, you're breaking up a little bit. And I don't see, I can't see your presentation anymore. Everyone, I'm so sorry. We will resolve this.
And
okay, we're going to get this resolved. I'm so sorry, everyone. I see the presentation slide now. Let's see. Okay. Melissa, are you there?
Okay, that's interesting. I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So sorry. I don't know what happened.
But I can't see anything.
So a lot of people try to...
Melissa, yeah, I can't see anything. I saw your previous slide, but I can't see. Okay. It's just a black screen right now. There we go.
Huh. Okay.
What program are you using?
What the heck? Zoom or Keynote and Zoom.
Oh, Keynote.
Is that why?
It might be. I don't know.
Oh, that's
I'm
interesting.
a diehard slides and PowerPoint fan, so.
But I always use Keynote. I don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No worries.
Okay.
We can see you now. And you.
So, okay.
No worries.
Okay. Thank you. So most of us, when we're trying to really get a grip on things, we tend to try to use willpower. And willpower is the reason that I work with people to not use willpower is because willpower is an exhaustible resource. It is not something. So if you think about this as an owner, it is our job to continue to develop ourselves to operate better, using our time the way we need to be using it. And when we use willpower, it is the opposite of developing ourselves, because we're really just trying to close our eyes and barrel through and try to get as much done as we possibly can. Just suck it up, go, go, go. That's not developing yourself. That's exercising a muscle. And there's a time and a place for that. But if we want to grow our businesses sustainably and not at the cost of us, you can't rely on willpower. So that is what the process I'm going to show you today really has you slow down and take control of your time in a deliberate way and upfront, instead of just trying to barrel through as fast as you can and try to just put the smack down on yourself to get to the other side. There's 3 killers of growth. And so I was saying the 3 truths earlier, and Monday Map fits in here. But one is a lack of clarity about exactly what you are wanting to create for yourself. And you could think long-term with this or short-term with your week. It doesn't matter. But if you want to grow and if you want to accomplish as much as possible, there needs to be clarity. And the second thing is there needs to be a plan. And the third is execution of the plan or follow through on the plan. So clarity is not something we're going to be addressing today, but it is a factor in terms of if you want to grow, whether it's yourself or your business, you've got to have these three things: clarity, a plan, a solid plan, and a well thought out plan, and then a follow through on it. So today we'll be really touching on planning, and then we'll talk about follow through of your plan as well. The reason that we put processes into place inside of our business, which is usually how we think about processes, is that's where they belong, is in the business. And it's because they always create these predictable, ideal outcomes. And that prevents the important things from falling through the cracks. It lowers our stress. It does all the right things. But for some reason, we don't actually consider what processes we need to put into place for ourselves as the owners. And everybody can ask themselves that, but I'm talking to owners here, so that's why we're going with this. And when you do put processes into place for yourself that you abide by, you end up operating much more efficiently, just as it happens in your business. And that new way of operating is really required if you want to experience some great things for yourself. There's one of my favorite quotes is by a woman named Chris Plackey. She's a business coach, and she says the best way to grow a business is to grow the person running it. And I could not agree more. Of course, there's externalities and there's things that we need to focus on. But if you aren't focused on you and how you can grow, then you're going to hit a wall at some point. And maybe that's because you're exhausted, or maybe it's because you're experiencing a plateau. If the person in charge of the business isn't developing and growing themselves, then you shouldn't expect to make it past, a certain level, right? At Velocity Work, we focus on two core personal processes. One is Monday Map and Friday Wrap. The other is quarterly planning. And so today, I'm basically just going to give you Monday Map and Friday Wrap to implement right after today. The definition of planning, which is what you will be doing with Monday Map, is making decisions ahead of time, period. It doesn't need to be more complex than that. And so when you make a bunch of decisions ahead of time, then it allows you to, when it's time to execute, put your head down and do the work. If you have to put your head down and work and then lift up and it's like, what's next? What should I be doing here? It doesn't work. You are inefficient. You're burning time. If you've ever read Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, it talks about this at length, and he uses a different language, but it's the same idea. How can you tee yourself up to be able to knock it out of the park through the week? Because we're talking about the week right now. And planning on the front end of the week using Monday Map is going to be key, so that you don't, as one of my clients says, I don't have to think and hit at the same time, which apparently is something a baseball great once said. So you don't want to be thinking in the middle of your week unless you have to, and we'll talk about those instances. Okay, so Monday Map, Friday Wrap. Here is the process to do Monday Map and plan your week like a pro. Every week before you start work on Monday, I have clients that do this over the weekend. Some of them do it Friday before they go home for the weekend. It doesn't matter. You can even do it Monday morning. It just has to happen before you start work on Monday. You take an hour, and sometimes when you first starting getting your bearings, you may want to carve out more. And I can just hear people saying like an hour, but bear with me, because this 1 hour will give you back 8 easily if you just have discipline to do this. So 1 hour, you sit down, eliminate distractions, and sit down and sink into what you're about to look into. Allow for deep focus, which, by the way, is good training for what you should be doing through the week as you're honoring your plan. So what you'll do is, the first thing you're going to do is do a detailed brain download. You want to get everything out of your head and onto paper or a document, doesn't matter, but out of your head that is floating around of things that need to get done. When you hold things in your head, it creates a lot of chaos, and it's hard to feel relaxed and confident about anything. David Allen says, your brain was meant for having ideas, not holding ideas. And something I say similarly to clients all the time is that your brain was meant for processing, not for storage. So get it out of your head and onto paper. Once you do that, and that takes time, and you'll think you have a full download. And then if you sit there though for a minute and you say, what else? More will come. There is more just hidden in the dark corners of your brain, and it's time to just get it all out so that your brain is freed up to actually process and move more quickly and efficiently, and honestly, feel a little lighter. The second step is to break each thing that you wrote down into smaller tasks. A lot of times we'll put projects on our to-do list, and it's not something that we can just execute on. An easy way to do this is to look at what you wrote and say, okay, for this thing, what are my obstacles in the way of getting that completed? Whatever your answers are, those are the smaller components of the steps. So maybe one, what are my obstacles in the way of getting my taxes done? Like if that's something you're putting down on your list, I need to get my taxes done. Okay, well, maybe what's in the way of completing that? I need to make a phone call to my accountant. I need to gather some documents. I need to, like, whatever the steps are, that will kind of help reveal it with that question. Then, and we could talk about the importance of this more. I just want to give you the process first. The next step is to ruthlessly weed out your list. Look at that list and see if there's any of those components or just the bigger task itself that can be delegated, or can you just delete it? Does it really need to be there? I think sometimes we have these unrealistic expectations of ourselves and really lofty aspirations. And it's not that we can't get to the things we want to, but really it will help you, and you will know your own for yourself what's true for you. When you are looking at your list, there are some things that just don't feel important, but they've been swimming around in your head. Okay, get them off of there. If they'll come back. You can add it to the list later if you want to. And then the other thing is to figure out what you can delegate and be ruthless about it. And the next step, once with what's left over, write down the amount of time next to each item that you need to complete that task. Sometimes people will say, well, I don't know what I need. I haven't done that thing before. Sit and think, and this is your Monday map, your focused time. Sit and think, what's your best educated guess that you should probably give yourself to get this thing done? If you're wrong, you're wrong. And there's some lessons learned that we'll go over in a minute, but don't not put a number next to it just because you aren't sure. When you put a number next to each thing, it allows you to very easily schedule into your calendar. It's very different to look at a list of things in front of you that has no amounts of time next to it than to look at a list that has like, this is going to be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 90 minutes. And you can sort of navigate where it makes sense to put things into your calendar. The final step is to actually schedule. Now, there's an order to follow when you are scheduling to make sure that you don't leave yourself in the dust with your business. The first is to schedule personal time or leisure time. Maybe that means dinner with your family. Maybe that means there's, something on the weekend. There's some tips coming up from clients. I would actually look at your weekend. You don't have to have every minute scheduled, but block out things that are important to you first as a person. The next is what I call the basics, just recurring things, meals. I think a lot of us don't take lunch, and it's not because we don't intend to, it's just what happens. So carve out time, even if it's a short amount of time, that you have space to actually be a human in the day and not just a robot. So this could be recurring meetings, meals, events, school pickup. Like, I don't know what it is for you, but there's recurring things that happen. Make sure that's blocked off so you don't schedule other stuff in it. The next is daily focus time. And this is for on the business work. This is for you as a CEO. If you don't really have much of this to give, or you haven't tried to give yourself much, and you fly by the seat of your pants with this, I would recommend starting small, like maybe 30 minutes a day, and that's it. But you'll blow your own mind if 30 minutes a day is actually given to this on the business focus and you haven't really been given any. So don't dismiss it because it seems like a small amount of time. You'd be amazed what you can get done. And then the next is what I call buffer time. This is for when your day does not go as planned, you aren't screwed. You have a little bit of space it's like, oh, okay, something got thrown off, but that's okay. I have some buffer time here. It's still going to get done. It's like overflow time. And then the final thing is everything else from your brain download. People freak out at first when they hear this because it's like, okay, but then if I schedule all those things up above, there's not room for everything else in my download. Okay, but one of the best things about this tool is that it forces you to get very honest about what's possible. Because, one thing is people are trying to do this, they'll start scheduling everything in and then they'll say like, Melissa, it doesn't all fit. Like this doesn't work. It doesn't all fit. I'm like, okay. But the alternative is that like without this process, here's exactly what would have happened. And I'll ask them if this is true for them. You were going to hit your week with the best of intentions. This like, I'm going to crush the week. I'm going to get to Friday. I need to get all this stuff done. I know my priorities. And Friday comes. And by the way, you just close your eyes and you barrel through the week. You do your best. And then Friday comes and you didn't get it all done. And now it's going to pile on your weekend, or it's going to pile onto next week, or you're going to work late, throughout the week. That's what you had to do. You could have known all of that up front of what was possible if you mapped it and if you planned it. And it will, not only would you have known it up front, and so then it's like, okay, if it doesn't all fit, I need to either reset some expectations with those around me and what people are waiting on, or I need to delegate like way harder than I'm delegating now. It becomes very obvious. It's in your face how much you're doing that you don't need to be doing. You have options, basically. You can make calls up front instead of just being deflated on Friday. And the other thing I'll say with scheduling everything is that, it takes time, I think, up front to do this the first go round, because if you've never done this before, there's so many things swimming in your head and you've never actually gotten out of your head everything you're expecting yourself to do, then it's going to be really tough at first. But don't give up, and you'll hear what clients have to say about this in a little bit. Do your very best. And the whole point is that it's not about you right out of the gates, like you have a short work day because you planned everything and you're going to do everything perfectly. It's more about you taking control. So even if you decide to work late, you are deciding ahead of time that is what you're going to do on a day, instead of just running into the evenings and, not being present with your family, or et cetera, et cetera. So it really puts you back in the driver's seat.
There are a couple of questions before we go even further, because I think there's a lot to digest here, and I just want to take a quick break if we can. Is that okay?
Oh my gosh, 100%. And this is the end of the Monday map slide, so this is perfect.
Okay, awesome. Good timing. So a couple questions. I'll start with the easiest first, which is like, what app or scheduling system can you do this sort of thing, this activity in?
Yeah. Well, I will show you client examples, which Maddy pushed me really hard to get from clients. I'll explain that when I get there. So you'll see, people use different calendars. It's more about whatever tool you currently use. I wouldn't go switching that up. I would use what you use and just follow the method of like getting it all out of your brain and then getting it into whatever calendar you do use. The tool doesn't matter. And I can say that because all of my clients use different things and they all have success with it.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Two other questions that have come up, maybe three. So for the daily focus time, is there a topic that you should be intentional about focusing on, or is that more general?
No, good question. So when you do your brain download, inevitably on that list is going to be things that are more like owner type things to do. Not so much, because there'll be client things on there, but there'll be a lot of just you as the owner, things that need to get done, or processes you want to put into place, or et cetera, et cetera. Those, whatever on your brain download fits into like that CEO time, that's what I would schedule into your block that you create for the CEO time. So no, the answer is no. I don't think, because everybody's so different and at a different place, it really depends on you as the owner. What's top of mind for you? Do you never look at metrics because you're always too busy? Maybe that's something that should go in this block.
Brilliant.
Do you, is there a process that's been shelved for the last year and you keep thinking about it? Maybe this is that time to start to make headway at it. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it could be outlining your book. It could be, looking at your metrics and how are you tracking. For example, right now we are, 6 weeks into, the first quarter. How are you tracking towards meeting your quarterly goals?
Yes.
So that might be
my language.
Well, yeah, you might say like, at the last week of every month, I'm going to check in and say, am I a third, 2/3 towards my quarterly
100%.
goal as you hope to be, so that you're not surprised by anything.
Yes.
So that might actually change on a daily or weekly basis.
Yes. Yes. Is there another one too?
There's one more. So the question is, do you recommend using one task manager? So
Mm,
Emily is saying I use, one particular software program
mhm.
for cases. I also use sticky notes on her Mac, and then Apple reminders for a lot of my personal stuff. I feel like, it's all over the place.
Mm,
How is there one place to sort of contain that, especially
yeah.
when what you're saying is your Monday map is like tasks and projects, and then also that brain download, which could be writing a book or something.
Yeah. Good question. I'll give you my personal take or what I found works for me, and then I'll kind of share something that my clients have realized because there isn't a right answer to this. I My team has used ClickUp in the past, which is a task management software or app, but there's others like it: Asana, Trello. I don't know, Maddie, you probably know.
Clubhouse. We use
Yes, yeah.
Clubhouse. Monday, that's very popular with attorneys these days.
Monday, yes,
Mhm.
exactly. So when we first started using ClickUp, I always do my brain download. I I have a notebook that's meant for Monday Map, and that's it. So, for example, like this is one of the pages that I have. I just dump everything here, and then from there I schedule it into my calendar. And to me, because I understand the process, and the process is meant to be when you schedule it in your calendar, you can count on that it's as good as done. If there's things that are in the backlog that didn't make it on my calendar this week, I put those in my task management system. And so that I can keep track. If they aren't on my calendar, they're not just floating in a notebook somewhere. So that's how I manage it. I used to put everything in ClickUp and then try to schedule from there, and it was a waste of time. Like if it's going into my calendar, it's as good as done. That's just it. Now, my clients, like I'm working with someone new, and yesterday, I mean, he doesn't have a small firm. I mean, he's doing like $1 million a year, and he doesn't have a task management system. And it's like in his face, oh my freaking gosh, I need this so bad. Like, how have I been managing? And because it's probably very similar to the person that just wrote in, he feels all over the place. So when he's working, he's kind of, for accountability purposes, sending me his brain download and how he's organizing things. So initially, he set up a spreadsheet because he didn't have an app to use. So he set up a spreadsheet, dumped everything in there, made a column for the amount of time that everything needs, if he could delegate it, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where his starting place was. And so we talked about, I was like, yes, you need a task management system. Here's a few to look into to see what feels like it fits. And he uses Clio. So I said, you can use Clio for some of the client related tasks, but there's a lot of things that aren't client related that need a place. And so he's going to look at doing that. So hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge help. And I think also, one thing that's sort of like staring us in the face, especially when we talk to attorney, law firm owners, but then even, put yourself in the place of a plumber, a general contractor, a tutor. Like, your calendar as a service provider is always going to be broken up. And this is really like the backbone of these intentional steps here that Melissa is showing, between direct service delivery and working on a service for a client, right? Like, you might be at trial or blocked off or in court or on a Zoom, hearing or something. You might have a consultation, but then you also might have family time. You might have a staff meeting. You might have a marketing agency weekly check-in. Like, these two things may not have always coexisted on the same calendar for
Right.
you. And Melissa is saying now they do, right?
Yeah,
And
because
that's
that's
time is
such a
time.
good point. That's such a good point. Because I think that's what happens when we build our business. Somehow, very unintentionally, we leave ourselves in the dust. And then that caps us in what we're capable of creating because we haven't given ourselves what we need to fully function. And so our relationships tend to suffer, our well-being tends to suffer, even, and I'm saying this even if hopefully it doesn't sound too extreme, but in conversations with clients, your mental health suffers because you are not setting yourself up to win at anything. You haven't taken yourself as the human into account so of course you can stack things on your calendar, but as you know, one of my clients says my calendar was swollen before I started doing this. And by swollen, she meant just like overbooked, double booked, sometimes triple booked. And how is that even possible? Like, how do we think that's going to go? Right. So it's really about, it can bring up a lot of anxiety at first, because you really see like, I'm putting everything in. My intention is to get all this done. But if I'm really honest, it's literally impossible. And so if you take some of that away and you pare it down, it feels, there's a lot of fear involved in that. It's like, well, then, oh my God, then what? But it wasn't going to get done anyway. And so taking yourself into account, where it's like, I think, for another example with personal and business, if you have to go pick up your kids, or you have to go do something for your own life, and you have it in 12:30 to 1, I got to do this thing, but you backed up a call to 12:30, where's your drive time? Like, how are you can't win at this game. So it's almost like, how can you set up your week and actually kind of think about it as a game? Like, how can I set this up to win? So on Friday, I got done everything I said I was going to get done. And so,
Melissa, I'll just share like two minor little stories here. So one is that I grew up with a mother who's a therapist, and she had her own business. She still does for 30 years. And she always had 50-minute sessions. Now, why did she have 50-minute sessions? Because you need buffer time. After you have a session with a client, you take notes right then and there, you close out that file, you complete the bill, you log the time whenever you do. It's quite similar actually to how an attorney may work after a client meeting, right?
mm-hmm.
So there was that engagement, it was build time, and there is sort of a log that needs to be kept of that work. And she knew that actually I charge you not for an hour session, but for a 50-minute session. That is the rate. You will end at exactly 50 minutes. And it was set up front to block off her calendar that way. So that was something that I was exposed to very early on. The other thing so I would encourage you to think about meetings not as necessarily full hour blocks, because 10 minutes times 5 meetings during the day is another 50 minutes, right? So you can actually earn back a lot of time and build in even more buffer time. The other thing I'll say is that I've noticed with some case and practice management systems that if you have deadlines on your calendar, which are core to most attorneys' work, that sometimes takes up a spot on your calendar. We know this at Smith because we're, booking calls as receptionists, and sometimes we don't see available time because it's a deadline that's maybe for that day. Maybe it's by 5 p.m., but it shows up as a 10 a.m. alert or an all day alert or something, depending on the practice. So the management system. So I really encourage you that if that is your system you're using and that's a characteristic of it, that you make sure that your time is not getting artificially blocked. It's almost the opposite issue, Melissa, that you're talking about with double booking. You actually are more available and could get more scheduled consults during your day if you can just unblock those deadlines that are really by close of business and not from 10 to 11 a.m.
Yes, that's a good point. It's a really good point. I will, you mentioned something like with the story about your mother and how she would set up her appointments. That's one thing that, for her, the expectation was set up front. Like that's how she rolls. Right. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to look at where we need to set expectations better. Not just with clients, but with our team and with, people can't just grab at you all day long. And so how can you set expectations that maybe, hey, during this window, unless it's an emergency, of course, hey, during this window, I'm totally open, gather your questions, let's batch those and talk through them. And that way you can actually focus with your calendar time that you have set. The other thing is, when you're doing this, remember that it's about progress, not perfection. I teach this, and every week doesn't go perfectly as planned. That's not really the point. What is the point is I am in control of my time. I am very conscious about the way I spend my time. I'm not flying through it. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like there's weeks that feel like that. I'm like, dang. And there's lessons for me to learn so that I don't repeat it. But for the most part, my plan doesn't go perfectly because that's not life. And so something will come up and I will take 5 minutes to look at my calendar, adjust, and then sink into the thing that popped up instead of just like rolling with like getting derailed by the world. I decide when my plan gets derailed. And that's the difference I think with this is it really puts you back in the driver's seat so that you don't feel like you're just at the whim of the world. So I like, yeah. Well,
Great.
I think if it's okay, there's only one slide for Friday wrap and it's so easy. So let me say this. At the beginning of the week, you do Monday map. And for me, I do mine together. So what I'm getting ready to show you, I guess I could share that with you in a moment. But at the beginning, so I always do mine on the weekend. It's just where I feel like I have the most space and I can do it. And so I do my Monday map. That's where I'm planning. I make all my decisions ahead of time. And then Monday comes, my head is down. My calendar drives me because it's what I've said, right? So, and I would encourage that for all of you, because if your calendar doesn't drive you, then what does? And if your calendar does drive you, but it's impossible, like, right? So I just abide by the plan. It's just execution. Execution, your head is down, doing the work. Planning, your head is up, really looking at the whole landscape and figuring out things and strategically placing things where you want them. So, and then at the end of the week, what kind of the Monday map and Friday wrap bookend the week. At the end of the week, we do something called Friday wrap. You can do this on Friday before you go home. You can choose when you do this, but after your work week is done, you ask these 3 questions. What are the top 1 to 3 accomplishments of my week? What is the top lesson learned about you and how you operated? Not about the world, it's about you. Because this is your chance to really reflect and evaluate your effort to what you gave to this. And so the kinds of lessons that will come up is around like, did you plan well enough? Do you maybe need to rethink how you're going to plan next week in some way, shape, or form? Did you give into distractions? You didn't honor the plan, but it was because you just gave into distractions or sort of indulged in something, you know? What is it? What lessons, what are the takeaways? What are the lessons that you want to carry forward as you move into next week? And this is what allows people to get better and better and better at their Monday maps. And then the final thing for Friday wrap is just brain dump. What's top of mind about next week that, you know, you're in it. So it's good to just get it out of your head. So it gives you a leg up when you sit down to do your Monday map for next week.
So Melissa, this is a question that just came in.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back to, Mondays and deal with the backlog that wasn't done that sort of accumulates, obviously, week over week? There are going to be things that don't get done or just don't completely get done that carry over. Or things that just seem to never get started, like writing that book or white paper or starting up that podcast, et cetera.
You mean like if I've planned my week well and it gets derailed and there's things left in the dust, like what do I do with those?
Let's say even that you're like doing this for the very first time. And if I've never done this, my brain dump is going to be like 10
messy
long, right?
Yes.
And it's going to be, let me collect all my scraps and notes and everything. And I'm going to do Melissa told me, and then I just booked myself out to July, right?
Right.
And here we are in February. So like,
there's
some things that'll get like, brain dumped and scheduled. And then there are other things that maybe it's a backlog because it didn't get on there, or it's a backlog because it was on there and it didn't get done.
Okay. Yes. So that's really helpful to put it in the context of like your first go at this. You can schedule out even further beyond the week. If there's something really important to me, I will do that. But I would just take it a couple weeks at a time, right? Mostly focused on what's right in front of you, because this is also very similar with planning for the year, right? Like you have a rough plan for the year. You know that at certain points you're going to do this. Like there's some things that go in your schedule, but you need to know what in the next 90 days, concretely what needs to be done. That's kind of like this. It's like you need to know with what's right in front of you, what you're supposed to do this week. So I think the thing that takes the longest is not only the brain dump, but then also prioritizing what comes first. Like what am I going to focus on this week? Knowing that there is literally 100 things I could focus on. What am I going to put in my focus? So I don't actually recommend that you deliberately just schedule everything from your brain download until July. I would say figure out your concrete steps, which means you're gonna have to prioritize what gets your attention in the next week, maybe 2. And from there, you can schedule a few things here and there, but I wouldn't pack out things because priorities are going to shift week over week. And it's just going to cause more work for you when you sit down to do your Monday map a couple weeks from now. If you've already packed out your schedule, then so I would stay closer to where you are. Even if you go beyond the week, just stay closer to where you are. Does that help? And keep the log. So that's what I said. All the stuff that doesn't make it onto my calendar, that does go in my project management system, just so I have a record of it. But honestly, for me, everybody finds their own groove. Each of my clients has their groove. Some people use notebooks like I do, some don't. But for me, it's all here too. So it's like, if it didn't make it in my calendar, it goes into my management system. But I always have this to reference back if I ever needed to. So I don't know. That's just kind of my system for it. If you have a Remarkable, I have clients that they use their Remarkable solely for Monday maps and like brain downloads. And so it's just all there all the time. I don't have a Remarkable, so I don't really understand their experience, but they're fanatics about it for Monday map. So that's another option.
Yeah, or Rocketbook, things like that. If you're someone who really likes to handwrite things,
Yeah.
For each individual person, you may really prefer voice memos. You may really prefer, typing, handwriting, whatever it is. Just do what is most comfortable for you. If your brain flows better when you're speaking or if you're typing, then it's going to be more accurate when it gets down on the page and on your calendar.
Yes. I really want to encourage people, make this your own. Just follow the steps, but you have freedom with how you actually get those steps accomplished. I totally get, most of my clients aren't handwriting kind of people. Like they actually prefer to be in docs and things like that. So really do make sure that you're being true to you and how you work best, but follow the steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for all the questions that are coming in, I'm getting a ton of questions and I love this so much.
Oh, good.
Engagement is so high here, and it's, we may have maybe a follow-up webinar on this to just dive into it a little bit more with the systems behind it. But I think the main point here is, if this is speaking to you based on all of the commentary that I'm seeing come through, it seems like it is. Don't worry about, are you using Remarkable or Rocketbook?
Oh,
what
no.
document? Asana or Clubhouse? Look, everything has a free trial. There's a calendar systems are, free to use and try across the board. Notebooks, whatever, Evernote, you could use whatever you like, but it's the behavior that then will teach you, what's your, preferred method of like documenting this and tracking it. That's stage 2, right?
Yes.
Right now, you can't screw up by picking the wrong system. You can screw up by not writing anything down and not trying it at all.
It's
so
also, okay, yeah, I agree. It's also, even though this might sound harsh, but I fall prey to this as well, it's a distraction from just doing the work. And, I don't know if any of you listen to Rich Roll podcast.
I love Rich Roll.
Okay. He says, people always want to know, what watch are you using? What socks do you wear? What like tech do you have? And he's like, just go run, man. Like go run. And then let's have that deeper conversation. And it makes me think of similar to how we approach work and new ideas and new processes. We kind of do the same thing. So, just really, be willing to have this be a bit of a crude process for you up front. It's more about getting control and understanding and having some realizations for yourself. You will have a few hefty realizations as you go through this process for yourself.
Let me also say one last thing, and then we'll get into all these different calendars that you have to
Yeah.
show us, which I think is so cool, and you're gonna like wish we spent the entire hour on this. So I saw a preview in your Instagram post, and I was like, this is
Yeah.
okay, but so here's your treat to yourself. Here's your gift to yourself. If you do for a full month, just 4 weeks, maybe 5, 4 weeks, you're going to do the Monday map and Friday wrap with whatever freaking system that you have right now, no matter if it's a scrap of paper and then you're handwriting it into your calendar. You are just going to do it in whatever way you have and you can right now. And then your treat to yourself after 4 weeks of doing it and figuring out what you like is to refine whatever systems you're using, right? So like do that, reward yourself with a nicer, easier, better system that works on your computer and your phone, whatever. But just prove to yourself that like you're not going to, as Melissa said, spend time researching software as procrastination for actually just doing the thing that she's recommending right now, which there's no software recommendations in this entire presentation.
No, I mean, actually I've switched software since I started using this, but it's just because of what made sense for my team. No, it was not the,
it evolves.
This works with literally anything. It does. So I have a client that still, I'm trying to think of who it is, but it's just a paper calendar. That's it. That's the way they choose to do it, which they're the only one of my clients that use a paper calendar, but it works for them. They still do it.
As long as you're not carving it into stone, because that takes way too much time.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. So let's do the calendars, Melissa. I'm so excited.
Okay. And I have a couple tips for me. One is that when you're going to make your plan and then you're going to sit down to do this thing, like 10 o'clock, I have to write a brief or whatever. You're going to sit down at 10 o'clock and you need to expect that you're going to feel an urge to go do something different. Stephen Pressfield calls this the resistance in the War of Art. But every top athletes and the most successful people on the planet, they still experience resistance. They still experience that urge to not do what they said they were gonna do. It's about overcoming that and really learning to manage your brain. Your brain is gonna, all of a sudden, you're gonna want to snack, you're gonna go to the bathroom, you're gonna want to make a phone call that's really important. It should actually happen right now. And no, right? Just if those things are entering your brain, write them down so that you don't like lose them. But don't walk away from your plan. That's, I think, the hardest part is actually honoring your plan to the best of your ability. And life might take you away. Like there may be something that pops up that is more important than what you had scheduled, but you consciously make that choice and don't give into your brain when it just doesn't feel like doing it. And then the other thing I'll say is that the way that you show up, and that's why I think Monday Map is a really important process for people to go through for themselves, because the way you show up as the owner impacts everything. It just bleeds into your business. Even if it doesn't really seem how directly it does that, indirectly it does. And so it's important to practice the way you want to be. You're always practicing a way of being. What are you practicing now? And what would you rather practice to be good at? I used to have a coach that would say, you got to be willing to suck at it. And then you won't, but you have to do that. And so you have to practice. And, if you don't really, or if you're not willing to shift how you operate, you're going to be working against yourself. And so another favorite quote is discomfort is the currency for your dreams. So, we all have this firm or this business we've imagined for ourselves. It's not easy, and you can make it easier on yourself by overcoming, like really experiencing discomfort, overcoming it, kind of getting yourself to this next level. And then same thing, but growth is uncomfortable and it's the currency for where you want to get. Okay. So I'm just going to skip to the, this slide. Okay. Cause this mentions a book I think you guys will like. If we aren't intentional with how we operate, we tend to feel all over the place. And if you are intentional with how you operate, it really does streamline you towards results. And there's one of my favorite books is called Indistractable by Nir Eyal. And he calls that path when you're kind of all over the place and you have a lot of action that isn't in alignment with where you want to be. He calls that a path of distraction. And the opposite that he names in his book, which is wild. I want y'all just take a guess. What do you think the opposite of distraction is? I thought it was focus. So that's wrong. I'll just give you a tip. The opposite of distraction, even from sort of a Latin perspective, is traction. So it's like, are you going to put yourself on a path of traction, which is intentionally operating and intentionally planning and honoring your plan? Or are you going to sort of stay on this path of distraction? I have a guide you guys can get that goes like step by step. We'll show things if you want it. It's at velocitywork.com/Monday-map. And it's everything I gave. It's nothing more than what I gave you here. It's just sort of condensed into this PDF guide. So if that's interesting to you, you're more than welcome to get your hands on it. But this is from clients. And Maddy pushed me to do this. I have never done this before because in my mind, I'm like, clients are going to have to redact so much of their calendar. Like they're not going to want to give it to me. It's like, I look at it with them sometimes, but it still felt like, but anyway, talking to Maddy, I was like, all right, I'm going to ask. So my clients gave me some stuff. So I thought I would break this down. I have a few examples here to share with you. You'll notice everybody's calendar is different, a different style, a different method. It's theirs though. So this is Carol, and Carol said, I asked them, what's your barrier, like the biggest barrier that you experienced with Monday Map as you were doing it? And what's some tips? So that's what they were giving. Carol said, my biggest barrier is what to do when all the tasks don't fit. And remembering to add personal stuff was also another barrier for her. And then she sort of came underneath that and said, seeing that it all didn't fit really drove home that number one, I needed help. And number two, to set more realistic timeframes for clients so I wasn't worried about getting it all done in timing. And so, I mean, just that one, the act of doing Monday Map, it didn't go perfectly. It wasn't pretty, but this came out of it. And now she is operating a bit differently. And it's a good thing for her. The tip she used is she said, it takes time to get used to this and it's okay to experiment with different time blocks until you find what works for you. Once you find your groove, your work will seem easier. And, as an example with time blocks, like some people have time blocks for miscellaneous tasks. So everything from their brain download that was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it goes into this like miscellaneous tasks time block, but it's all listed out in their calendar so that they know, if it's at 10 o'clock, they open up that calendar event and they see the list of things they need to do. So there's no thinking involved. It's just execution. So hers, I think which is so wild to me. I wonder if she's here. I don't know if she's here or not, but.
She is here.
Oh, what'd she say?
She said, I love Monday Map, Friday Wrap. It's so helpful. 2 exclamation points.
Okay, well, good. So I don't know what calendar she uses, but this was her just trying to give a sample of the blocks that she has. And what everybody does is they'll put the tasks inside of the blocks, right? So, and she's redacted some things here, but what's hard, like big project, client work, right? Like she'll know exactly what she's supposed to be working on when she opens up that event. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so this is Michael Donovan and his barrier that he wanted to share because I wanted people to be transparent. This is not a simple, it's a very simple thing, but it's not an easy thing to get in the mode of. And so I wanted you to hear from people like really what they're experiencing as they start this. And so he says, to be disciplined to break down tasks into times is hard. It's tempting just to block out an hour and put the client's name on the calendar. But he's learned that when he puts the tasks in there, it lets him just like bam, 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 bam. And he doesn't have to kind of find his bearings with that client's file or work. Tips, follow the guide step by step. And number 2, have a system in place to catch the thoughts that pop into your head during the week so that you can make sure that they get on the calendar next week or they're a part of your Monday Map next week. And then the third thing, give yourself a full hour or more to map your week. And he said it saves him time when he does this. That's why it's worth it to put that time in up front.
I'll say one quick thing here, Melissa,
Yeah.
and this may be, based on your personal preference, but there are a couple of attorneys who actually, like, I've interacted with, and I notice here in this particular calendar that there's check email a few
Yes.
times a day, right? And if you're doing that, you can actually be pretty transparent about that. There's an attorney who I know who actually will send an auto reply that says, "Thank you for your email. I got it. I check my email twice a day." You might even be so specific to say, at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. or 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And, if it's urgent, contact me here or my team here. If it's not urgent, you'll hear back from me or my team within 24 hours or whatever it is. That can actually really help you, A, stick to this schedule, and B, not have more interruptions come through because someone emailed you and now they're calling and you're getting derailed from your lunch because they didn't get the message that you will check the email again at 1 p.m. and they'll hear back from you soon after.
Okay, that is a perfect example of setting expectations. I think we don't do it enough for, I love that suggestion. Yeah. And so that's like a recurring thing. So he doesn't move that around. So he had to do that the first time he did his Monday map, but there's a lot of things on this calendar that they're just there. It's just what he does now every week, and there's time for it. And so then what's funny is that when you do that, there's not a lot of space left over for one-off things that are on your Monday map, but it's realistic and the important things are getting taken care of. Yeah. The next one is Joey Vitale. I've worked with him for a long time. He didn't follow my instructions with barriers and tips, but he did say, "It's helped me gain control over my schedule by putting time into planning up front. Scheduling your activities and requiring yourself to do things sequentially is a superpower. When you spend more time on the process, researching, outlining, actual tasks go by very quickly. I've seen so many projects go from idea to completion because of this." So that was great. This is Peter. He's in Canada. He said his barrier, not getting everything out of my head during the brain download. It's like he wasn't done. He thought of more stuff later. He said he usually thinks of it at 2 a.m. So now he's solved it. So we'll talk about that. But he said, as a result, you'd put together your Monday map, and then you'd have something else come up that you forgot about, and you'd have to find out how to fit it in. Sometimes you couldn't fit it in. So you just say, forget the whole plan for the week. I'll deal with whatever. And since then, he's really gotten a handle on this. And so his tips are: do a brain download before you finish work on Friday. So he does a deep one, not just what I said, like top of mind during the Friday wrap. During the Friday wrap, he does like as much of a download as he can possibly do so that it's very easy for him when he does his Monday map. And then he said, do a second one on Sunday, and then map your week before Monday. The second thing he said is do the map Sunday before there are any expectations or opportunities for others to interfere with your focus. Because I think some people think, I'll just do it Monday morning, but by then people are pulling at you already. Okay. This is Michael Levins.
Oh, sorry. One thing, Melissa, can you go back for one slide? I just want to
totally
call out one particular thing, which is that he's got open appointments. If you look at 11 a.m.
Yes.
So one of the things that I really recommend, especially to a lot of our clients, is like you can use the free busy setting on your calendar to your advantage, which is you want to be able to look at your week, but how are you going to fill it up, as Melissa is telling you, if you actually block yourself off? You're like, why can my receptionist never book an appointment the same week? It's always the next week. Well, you can't block off all your time as busy. You could have appointments that's actually, yes, it's a block, but it's actually free. And it can be blocked for consults during that time.
I love that. Yeah. I think Peter, because we talked about this, his open appointments time, it's like people can schedule there, or, his assistant can schedule things there, but, and I have some attorneys that need a lot more time than that for open appointments, but it's almost like he won't schedule like really meaningful work in those spots. It's almost like bonus time. If he gets it, then he can make headway on something. So he can use it if he has the opportunity. If he doesn't, it doesn't like throw off his day because of what he had planned.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to go just probably a minute over. Sorry. So for anyone who can't stay, you'll get the recording afterwards, but we will be wrapping up shortly.
Okay. Okay, Michael Lovins, he gave me this view of his calendar. He didn't give me Monday because he said, head down. I didn't do it on Monday. I hit my week. It was a disaster. So I did it Monday night. But he said, the barrier for him, he does a lot of litigation. The uncertainty of a lot of things in a lawyer's schedule. Stuff pops up in litigation, or you initiate something, but there's an unpredictable lag between what you initiate and when you get a response. So he's new at this. He's trying to figure out, like, how do I keep things flexible enough? And he's succeeding. Like, he's getting better every week at creating flexibility for his schedule. And then don't give up. It's a new skill. You will stink at it for a while. I think I still do. There's a quote, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you figure out how to do it well. So I'm continuing to do it, albeit poorly, because of how much I get done by doing it.
That's powerful. Like I'm doing it poorly and it's having such an amazing positive impact.
There you go. Yeah.
If that doesn't invite you to do this, I don't know what will.
Oh, that's true. That's good. Okay, a couple more. There's only two more. Jennifer, her barrier is over scheduling. She tries to pack so many things in and she cuts corners on amount of time things take. So she sets herself up for failure. She's still working on this, trying each week to move a few more things off to the next week, not create internal deadlines where there isn't really a deadline to have something done. And her tip is to make sure to actually schedule the buffer time and time for email. Those were two things that really helped her. But she's the typical, like, clients aren't even expecting things from her, but in her mind, she'll have anxiety if she doesn't knock them out. But she creates an unrealistic expectation for herself by doing that. So she's really, that's like serious behavior modification, so she's working on it and she's doing well, but it isn't a light switch that's just flipped on and off. When you wake up to things and you got to slowly make changes. And then this is Ty. He had we're out of time. His responses were so long and so meaningful, but there was I couldn't put them on a slide. So I thought if we had time, I would read you what he wrote because it's really brilliant. But maybe if there's a part two, I can share something.
No, sure. I mean, you can share a little bit. We'll have a recording. So if anyone has to go, feel free to go. And then hear about this section afterwards.
Here's what I'll say. Oh, and I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if you have to go right now, because we are over, melissa@velocitywork.com, right? That's how to contact you. Okay. Yes. So you'll get that from me by email if you registered for this. But just wanted to, if you have to go, share that information with you. And
if you want the guide at velocitywork.com/Monday-map.
Awesome.
So this calendar, I have to say, Ty, and if anybody is one of my clients is in the audience, they might roll their eyes endearingly. He is so good at Monday Map. He is so good. He is one of the most intentional humans I've met. He's been doing this since June. I started working with him in June. And he is just, it doesn't mean every week is a good week, it's not always, like I said before, it's not rainbows and daisies, but he is in control of his time. And he has figured out his groove with it. And it took him a while to get there, but now he knows exactly what to do for himself. Okay, I will definitely share. I have the email pulled up on my screen. I think, though, if it's okay, I'm going to stop sharing and then just read some things. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. It's coming. Okay. All right. The biggest barrier I encountered related to Monday Map involved the feeling of overwhelm and self-doubt when tackling my calendar. I knew that organizing my calendar and scheduling my days would help me, but I think I told myself that it would be too big of a pain in the ass and use these feelings of helplessness as an excuse to coddle myself and never take action. I needed this to give me a framework for breaking projects down, getting things done, and taking control of my day. I've also written some general thoughts on my personal system for calendaring if it helps. This might be too harsh for new people struggling with whether to adopt Monday Map, but I'd say that until you learn to get out of your own way, you're never going to get what you want from life. It's easy to fart around, indulge yourself with self-doubt, and generally come up with excuses for inaction. It's hard to accept personal responsibility for your station in life and then start to chart a path for how you want to improve. all of which begins with taking control of your calendar. So get out of your head and get to work. You'll be pretty proud of yourself in a month or two from now. To rephrase in a less crankish way, I'd say just get started and try it. You will find your groove over time. Don't worry about messing things up. It's not going to happen over and over again, and that's okay. But you'll get better over time. And until you try taking control of your calendar, you will never know what's possible or how much you can get done in a week. So that I thought was like, after someone, I think he's probably better at it than me, and I'm not kidding. so, so I thought that was pretty great. He also gave some tips for calendar organizing tactics. So I thought that this group would probably be really into that.
Absolutely. Perfect.
So he says, number one, color coding my activities helps me take a 10,000-foot view of my week and see how much time I've devoted to A, billable work, B, on the business work, C, personal time, and D, admin or managerial work. Sorry if the screenshot looks like a box of crowns vomited on my schedule. It works for me when reviewing weeks at a glance. Number two, creating recurring activities to occur at set times makes a large portion of my schedule preset without me needing to do anything. And then number three, I made up a category in my calendar called catch up time, because when I get caught up on the minutia of tasks that accumulate throughout the week, those are blocks of time I intentionally leave open for overflow tasks. So this is like the overflow time or the buffer time we're talking about. He just made an actual calendar for it. Mm-hmm. Tasks like email, returning phone calls, staff questions, admin issues. Without it, I would overschedule myself and probably work until midnight every night. Part of Monday Map is about accepting your own limitations and acknowledging that we have a few hours available in the day. So we better best schedule them to take full advantage of our skills and needs. Okay, and then the final one, number 4. I also try to include a few 10 to 15 minute blocks of time in my day that are totally unscheduled. This is a transition time for me, and it is different than catch-up time because I don't have to do anything during these empty blocks. I can do catch-up tasks if I want, but I can also read the news. I can make a personal call. I can go on a very short walk if I'd like. I find that scheduling time to intentionally be unproductive makes it easier for me to honor my calendar and stay on task when I need to. So that was like a book, but so I was just like beyond giddy when he sent me that, because it's like, this is someone who's done the work, because it's work to try to get this, but his life is better for him finding his groove with this. And I know a lot of people could probably relate. So
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks so much for all the work that you did and the outreach to compile all of these examples and to get all of those barriers and tips really well articulated by everyone who contributed there. And, I think I can speak for all of us who are, watching this, that you did a phenomenal job. Thank you so much. And hopefully we will have, at least one, if not multiple follow-up sessions to this. But if you are not already connected with Melissa, please go check out Velocity Work, find her on social, go to velocitywork.com and see what programs she offers. She is deeply involved in this business, right? It's not like you just met Melissa and then like the rest of her team is who you'll actually work with. Like, she is directly working with clients. And I think that you will find that she puts the same as, if not even more, sort of attention towards her work that she did with the fine-tuned details that she shared today. So go to velocitywork.com/Monday-map. I'll include that in the follow-up email so you can check out those resources that Melissa generously shared. And Melissa at velocitywork.com to contact her to see if you'd like to work directly with her, which I highly recommend. So everyone, thank you so much. Melissa, thank you for being here. It's great to see you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. It's always a blast to be with you, Maddy, and it's my pleasure.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.